later. Vamos a grabar. Hoy es el 25, sí, el 25 de octubre y es la última clase de la primera parte del otoño. This is the last of our first fall classes. Next, it's a separate session, so make sure that you are registered for it, which no problem. I mean, you can do it online if you didn't do it. Most of you did it, I'm sure. Next class starts November 1st. It'll be the very first day after Halloween there. So first day of November, we'll start up right away next week, no break, for beginning of that second fall session. And that is a somewhat shorter session. Yes, it is. Am I missing it? No, I'm not missing a week, but it goes up till December 13th. So, para que sepan, just so you know, it'll go November 1st till December 13th. That's how the next session is going to last. Okay, muy bien. Vamos a empezar y muy buenos días a todos. Y feliz lunes. Vamos a empezar con otra vez estos los cognados. We're going to start with cognates first, and then I'll see if you have any reading questions. But we're going to start, we're going from the M down, and you don't really need any notes for this. Actually, before I start, where you will need some notes will be, aquí viene, this page here, if you printed it off, that has the goal verb questions you're going to use when you go into breakout sessions, that you should either find as, pull it up as a second screen, or if you have it printed out, print that, or not print it, but grab that piece of paper that you printed, whichever way you use. Lo que vamos a hacer, what we are going to do is take a look at these cognados. We're going to look at these cognates again, and we did A through M. We're going to take a look at our N to the end of the alphabet, which would be words, which off of this list, because it's a really nice long list. ¿Por qué es doble? Oh, it's double. Okay, we're looking at the left-hand side, which is the side that has the Spanish one with, if there are any accent marks, that's where you'll see it. A la izquierda, on the left. Y vamos a empezar con N, sí, noble, normal. Normal. We're going to just highlight some words that would be more common for you to use, maybe, and this is a subjective thing. Opino que, estas son las palabras más importantes. I'm going to highlight maybe pronunciation on words that I think you may use more. Normal, muy común, sí, o nostalgia quizás no. Pero se pronuncia nostalgia. We've got to have that, yeah, nostalgia. Noble, normal, nostalgia, ópera, unless you're an opera goer, you may not need that at all. Oral, sí, oriental, yeah, sí, original, panorama, particular.
Pasta.
Sí, particular, pasta, por todo el mundo. There are different words for pasta. Some people use fideos, which means noodles, but pasta is pasta. Everybody knows what pasta is. Pastor would be a shepherd. Oh, yeah, pastor of a flock. It could be a religious pastor, but pastor generally indicates a shepherd, which is what your pastor spiritually is supposed to do. Patio, ¿sí? El concepto del patio, sí, es algo de España, right? That concept of the patio and the structure of actually having an open space in the middle of a building is something that's very Mediterranean. Patron looks like patron. Patron can be a pattern. Patron is often a boss. A boss, head guy, head gal, right? Patrona. You'd have to make it feminine in an organization.
Is also a boss, right?
Jefe is also a boss too. See, somebody who leads an organization, right? Yeah. Patron can also mean a pattern, however, peculiar, penal. Perfume, perfume. Perfume, we pronounce that E at the end because we don't have any silent letters. Perfume in inglés, pero en español, perfume. Personal, personal. Peseta is an old money unit in Spain, no longer used. The peseta because they use the euro, el euro. See, piano, plaza. Plaza, hay miles de plazas. Wow, there are thousands of plazas all over the Spanish-speaking world. Plural, popular. Popular, popular. Cuidado con la pronunciación de popular, right? We don't want to anglicize that one. Popular, popular. Pretensión principal, principal, principal thing, yeah. Probable, probable. And by the way, principal, for like a principal of a school, we would not use that word, principal. A person who is the head of a school would be called director, director, o directora, si es mujer. So this principal is not something we would use like, oh, Principal Davis, how are you today? Not the head of the school. Director, directora. So principal, probable, probable. Probable. Es probable. It is probable. Propaganda, protector, provincial, radical, radio, 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 región, región. ¿Sí? No se pronuncia región, región. Y región es región como en inglés, región.
Wait, say it again, the one that is a propaganda is a propaganda. It's not, it's, you pronounce it with g and it's not.
Propaganda, sí,
not
sí, gracias, no es ja, no. G gets a hard sound with G-A, G-O, G-U, gagogu, gagogu.
Okay.
So propaganda, right? Propaganda. Pero, but when we get to G-E-G-I, it'll be the ch sound. Región, 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 regional, regional, regional. And then we go back to the g sound, regular, regular. And regular, although yes, it does mean regular, regular is often a response to ¿cómo estás? And if you respond regular, it just means, oh, I'm okay. You know, it doesn't mean like super fabulous. I'm okay. Regular, regular. Bien. We get another G that is going to be a J because it's a G-I. Religión, religión, religión. Cuidado. La próxima pregunta, this, or la próxima palabra, perdón, palabra. This next word, sí, es muy, muy importante. Reunión, reunión.
Reunión.
Reunión, sometimes we may use this for reunion, but what people usually use this word for rather than reunion is to say a meeting, especially in a business sense. But any kind of a meeting that you have es una reunión, 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 reunion, but we would say meeting. Revisión, ritual, rural, secular, sentimental, serial, sexual, sí, igual, similar, similar, simple. You can use simple for simple, sí, singular, social, solar, solo, alone, by yourself is solo, right? If you have a solo flight, it means it's the first time you're piloting by yourself. Okay, and solo means alone. Subversión, wow. Superficial, superior. And superior, besides meaning, yes, superior, might mean a part that is like regionally above, like on top of something else, okay? La parte superior might mean the part that's above something else, like on a chart. Okay. Taxi por todo el mundo. El taxi siempre es el taxi. Taxi televisión, terrible, terror, total. Total, muy útil. Total is very useful. Transcendental, I doubt you're going to use that a whole lot in conversation unless you're getting deep into the weeds there. Triple, tropical, tropical. Unión. Unión. Universal. Usual. Usual se oye un poquito. You do hear this word usual a bit more, I think, than you do in English. Lo usual es, the usual thing is to do this. Usual, lo usual, the usual thing. Verbal, versión, vertical, violín, violín, visible, visual, vital, vulgar. Vulgar is vulgar, and this is used actually, you know, people like let slip a cuss word. Es vulgar. Es vulgar. Yeah. Vulgar is often used when people are talking about people just cussing. Es una palabra vulgar. Wow. Well, that is a vulgar word. They mean it's a not fit for polite company word. Vulnerable. But vulgar, you may actually hear. And wow, we're not going to go through all of those today. I may go through this bottom half and then just kind of pick out some ones that will be useful, that would be something you might hear frequently, so we can kind of pick that apart next. Well, yeah, la semana que viene, next week. Okay, ¿hay alguna pregunta? Is there any question you have on reading that you did or Duolingo work that you did through the week? I want to take a minute to do that.
Tengo una pregunta.
Okay, vale, dime.
Why did they do like a, mi, me, or a, tu, me?
Or a tu te, or a mi me. Qué buena pregunta. Ok, vamos a ver. Es muy buena pregunta. That is a super good question. Isn't that redundant? Yes, it is. Isn't that redundant? And the way you will, the way that you as a beginner may hear this, although it can be with many other verbs too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to pair this up with the verbs you're most often going to hear it with, which is gusta or gustan. It could be that plural, gustan, right? A mí me, a ti te gusta, a nosotros nos gusta. And now we're going to separate this out from a él le gusta, a ella le gusta, a usted le gusta. And those ahs could be anything. The phrase could be Ramón. It could be la señora, la señora Rodríguez. It could be mi hijo. It could be any single person, right? But we put a ella, ella, a usted, just to give you the flavor of that is those are singular, and a ellos les gusta, a ellas les gusta, a ustedes les gusta. So you most frequently, as a beginning student, hear the a mí paired up with me gusta, a ti paired up with te gusta. These things up here, the a mí, a ti, a nosotros, are, we would call these emphatic phrases. They are just giving emphasis to the me gusta, the me part of me gusta. A mí me gusta. A mí me gusta is kind of the equivalent of us saying in English, and listen to the inflection of my voice. I like. A mí me gusta. Without inflection, gives that thing. A ti te gusta? Do you like? Do you like? Yeah. So when we punch that I like, you like, oh, we like. That's the equivalent of the a mí, a ti, a nosotros. It is just an emphatic phrase. If you wanted to, you could totally get rid of those phrases and let the me gusta, te gusta, nos gusta stand alone, and it would be perfectly okay. They are icing on the cake. They are extra, the a mí, the a ti, the a nosotros. They're unnecessary but emphatic. Okay, with these ones down here, the a él, a ella, with any combination of one person. It could be literally any one person at all, right? Who isn't I, you, or we. These are what we really don't call emphatic phrases. They are clarifying phrases. So whereas with me, te, and nos really don't have to have these, the word le very often, what percentage? I would say probably as high as between 60 and 70% of the time. It will often have an a phrase because le is such a fuzzy pronoun. Le gusta can mean he likes, she likes, you form a like. It can mean lots of different people as long as it's a single human being. So if we have no context, if you've been talking all along about somebody, okay, por ejemplo, puedo hablar de mi hija. Voy a hablar de mi hija. Mi hija es estudiante universitaria. Es estudiante universitaria en ASU y ella estudia la pintura, es pintora y tiene un examen y una exhibición muy importante la próxima semana, la primera semana de noviembre. Le gusta pintar. I don't need an a María or an a mi hija, le gusta, because I've been talking about her. And then when I slip in le gusta, le gusta means she likes, because I've been talking about her. So that's an example of when we probably won't slip in the a, ella, because you have context to know about. But if you need to clarify who that is, because it's kind of out of context, then that a phrase is frequently going to be used. And just as it's used with le, it is also used with les, and it is likewise a clarifying phrase. So you'll frequently hear an a with le and les in particular, but you will sometimes hear it, as an a mí, a ti, a nosotros, but for a different reason, to just give emphasis. Yeah, make sense? Okay.
Así es.
Okay. And people say, well, isn't that redundant? Yes, it is redundant, but it's what they do.
It's just like French.
Gracias.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
Like
well, yeah.
ami is like, ami, me gusta, for
Yeah, you know,
example. So
French
it's
has
like
some, yeah,
it's the
they
same
have-
thing, right? Because they say the same thing, like pour moi je, blah blah.
yeah. So similar kind of reasons. Okay. Bien. Es buena pregunta. That is a good question because you will hear that thrown a lot around a lot with other verbs besides gustar. And just know, it's just an emphatic phrase or a clarifying phrase so that you define exactly who you mean by le, exactly who you mean by les. Eso es todo. That's it. Muy bien. Otra pregunta. Any other question you have on reading or Duolingo? Anything that came up? Nada, 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 nada. Ok, vale, magnífico. Bueno, entonces vamos a empezar. We're going to begin. We're going to do some practice with our go verbs very, very soon. And we'll do a very quick review on what I mean by go verbs. And I will tell you that go verbs is, to be very honest, it is a man-made, it is an English-made cue. And people who actually speak Spanish as a native tongue don't use this phrase of go verbs.
Yo
They
go.
do that. Yeah, it's for the people who are learning Spanish to help them as kind of a mnemonic. Well, it's not really strictly speaking a mnemonic device, but certain verbs, especially in Spanish, certain verbs tend to be irregular, but sometimes they're irregular just in that yo form, and everywhere else it goes back to a normal form. And yeah, so sometimes it just helps us to know, and you just have to get used to the pattern of some yo verbs start with a go, but the go won't appear for all the forms. Now, where you may hear the go come in again is that when these terms are used as commands. So the reason it's very good to know these, besides the fact that they're important, is that in other tenses, specifically in what we call a subjunctive or a command, when you're telling somebody, go do something, you will hear this this G come up again. So I'm going to give you one example, un ejemplo. Let's take a look at hacer. Hacer has hago for I do, I
Hago.
make. And actually, you don't really use hago as much as salgo and some of the other ones. Hago la cama, I make the bed. Okay. Hago la tarea, I do homework. But, and you can't say I have made this thing if you actually create something. But, aside from that, where we use do, sometimes hago will not substitute. In any event, it's good to know that hago is hago, because you may hear when someone say instead this word, not hago with an o at the end, but haga. And haga with a G-A instead of a G-O is a command. Hágalo, do it. Hágame un favor, do me a favor. Por favor, hágame un favor, please do me a favor. So you may, in a roundabout way, see these iterations come up, but with an A at the end instead of an O at the end. And then it will be a command. If somebody says, leave, they want you out of the building, salga, right? If somebody says, put this on, or put on your shoes, or put on a coat, it'll be ponga, ponga.
Ponga.
So these go verbs come back at you in a different way that you don't expect later on. So just know, if you hear the go, but instead of a go, it's a ga, it's a command. They're telling you go do that. Okay. So the go verbs are certain categories of verbs. Hacer, salir, comer. We worked those last week. and these are a little bit tinier to see, but traer, to bring, decir, to say or tell. That one is harder because that has a true stem change. We'll look at decir shortly before we go off to practice. Tener, which you're really super familiar with, right? Venir, which looks almost exactly the same as tener, except it's got a B instead of a T, right? It means different, something different. Tener is to have something, and we use it in many, many different idiomatic phrases like I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I am lucky, right? Tener, besides physically having something, but venir, to come to a place, venir, vengo, and then vienes, viene. So tener and venir are truly what we call stem changing verbs. That means that ten of tener and the ven of venir, the e splits into an ie in a lot of those forms that it has, okay? And then this fun little verb, which is oír, to hear. Oír, to hear, not to listen, not to listen to, that's escuchar. Escuchar, to listen to, but oír, to hear. And that gets very, very oddball forms. Oigo, I listen to, right? Or excuse me, not I listen to, I hear. Oigo. Oigo los pájaros, I hear the birds. Oigo los pájaros todas las mañanas, I hear the birds every morning, see? Oigo los perros de mi vecino ladrando. I hear my neighbor's dog barking. Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, oigo, oigo. And now you may, just walking on the street, minding your own business, you may hear somebody give that as a command. You'll hear somebody say behind you, oiga. And oiga is kind of a, hey,
Yo.
that's how oiga translates. Hey, hey, you is oiga. So if you hear behind you oiga, you probably want to turn around because, yeah, oiga means listen up. Hey, it means somebody's trying to get your attention. And it is seen as a, maybe not, you know, I don't want to say rude. It's not a rude word. It's kind of an abrupt way of calling somebody's attention. So let's say you dropped something important and you don't, you know, those times when you drop something on the street, you don't know it, you're unaware. And if somebody picks it up and they want to hand it to you, they will probably yell out, oiga, oiga, because they want to get your attention. So oiga is what we use when we want to get somebody's attention. It's not as polite as disculpe. Disculpe is super polite, like in a store. Disculpe, excuse me. You want to ask for some help at a counter, right? You probably don't want to walk up to a counter and say, oiga, hey. See what I mean? It's a little more abrupt, but it's abrupt to get your attention because you must. But the politer way would be disculpe, right? Disculpe. But you may very well hear somebody say behind you, oiga, and that means they need to get your attention and they just need to do it fast and they don't, you know, have the time to be super fussy. But oír, as you can see, has lots of funny things with Y's and yeah, oyes, oye, I'm going to try to highlight the oyes. Oír is one of those verbs that gets lots of spelling changes because it's got an O and an I. It's got a double vowel thing going together there, and it makes for kind of weird things with the conjugation. Oyes, that's just what it sounds like. So they put a Y in. Oye, oyen, see, but oímos goes back to the original. So these are the words that traditionally we look to as go verbs. Traer, to bring, and we'll talk a little more about traer, well, maybe today, I don't know, either today or next session. Traer, to bring, when you're talking about bringing something to when you're at the place where it's supposed to be. I'll explain that better later, to bring. We don't use traer, for example. We use a different verb. Sometimes where we use bring in English, they use llevar, actually. But traer, when we're talking about the destination, where that thing you're bringing is going to be. Traer.
So if we
So-
ask someone, sorry.
So
we
yeah,
ask
if
someone,
you're asking somebody, hey,
like the waiters,
you're-
so we can
yeah,
ask.
you're coming to my party. Will you bring an extra 6-pack of beer?
Okay. So to the waiter, for example, we can we say like
With the waiter, yes.
tráigame una cerveza, por
So-
favor?
Sí, sí,
Okay.
exacto, tráigame. Muy bien, muy bien. So this important verb traer, you'll make it a command by making it traiga. Traiga. And traiga is the proper word, a perfectly great word to use when you want a waiter to bring something to you. You want him to bring an extra fork because you dropped your fork. You want him to bring a napkin because, oops, somebody forgot to leave napkins. You want him to bring the bill. You want him to bring another glass of wine. Okay. This traer is what we use with waiters to talk about bringing something to a
Is
table.
it, Marilyn,
Sí, sí.
is it more polite to say puedes traer? Puede.
Yes. Sí. It would be considered maybe a little more genteel. Puede traerme. O podría, could you, podría traerme. I will, let me put in how that would sound. There are different combinations that are generally used. So let's take a look. Okay. Let's take a look at that real carefully. Traer is something you will often need in a restaurant. So anytime you're talking about restaurante, restaurant behavior, you may find that verb very, very useful. So as a command, you will hear it not as traigo, but traiga. Traiga. And usually you'll tell who you want it brought to. And if it's me, it'll be tráigame. See, tráigame. We tack the me on the end of the command. Tráigame otra cerveza, por favor. See? Tráigame otra cerveza, por favor. O por ejemplo, tráigame la cuenta, por favor. Okay, bye. Bien. Now, maybe a little more of a soft pedal on that would be to ask this as puede traerme, and then the thing that you want brought, right? Puede traerme, literally, can you bring me? Okay, or even more polite than that one would be podría traerme, which translates as this. You know, and this is kind of implied. The please is kind of implied. Can you bring me and could you bring? Is there a difference? In English, maybe not so much, but in Spanish, the podría traerme is seen as more polite, more of a taking your foot off the gas pedal. Oh, you know, like not being so forceful in that command. So I would say more polite or super polite. So yeah, there are different ways you might hear people talk about that for sure.
So if you use podría and puede, then you don't have to add por favor, I guess, because that's already.
You don't have to, but I always do.
You still
Yeah.
use it? Okay.
I always do. Por favor is gold. It is worth its
Okay.
weight in gold. Por favor should really pretty much never be omitted. I mean,
Okay.
but it depends. When people are in a hurry, if they
Right.
see that the restaurant's super busy and the guy's super busy, they may dispense with the extra words. It's just, a fact of life. It's something we do. Okay, before we go off to practice, there are a couple things I want to take a look at. A couple of quick things. One is going to be just about salir, just about a salir. And I want to do this as a reminder because this kind of came up last week. But again, a little reminder, salir is a special verb because it can mean you're leaving from a place. It can be indicating, you can use it to talk about your point of origin, where you're starting off as you're leaving. Or it can be used to talk about leaving and the place you're going to wind up. And so the little word after salir, which is what we call a preposition. Prepositions are words that tell you where things are located. The little preposition is important because it'll tell you if you're talking about point of origin or like port of departure, if you will, or where you want to wind up once you're done with that action of salir. Okay. You may hear, and these wouldn't be the only ones, but three ideas, right? We might use salir with a to talk about a time that you leave. El hombre sale a las 5 de la tarde. The man leaves at 5 p.m. Sale a las 5. The a las 5 is going to be, you may hear a as a preposition after salir. A las 5 is going to indicate a time somebody leaves. So there, these prepositions will indicate all kinds of different things. When you want to talk about the destination where somebody will wind up, okay, where they're going to end their journey, essentially, be that long or short, you might hear the word a or para. Both of those indicate a destination, an end point, where you're going to wind up. La familia sale a la playa. The family is leaving to go to the beach, right? Ellos salen para la playa means the same thing. It's just using para instead of a. Para, which I know it means for, but para has many meanings, and para also indicates a destination where you will end up after you do that action of salir. Okay. Salen para la playa means the same thing as salen a la playa. But both of those, a and para, are telling you where you wind up at the end. Okay, bien? However, if your point is where they're leaving from, then you need to use that word from, which is de. Salen del cine. They're leaving the theater. We don't know where they're going. We're just emphasizing that the place they're exiting is the theater. Salen del cine. And del places more of an emphasis on, we're informing people about the place they're walking out of. Salen del cine. Los turistas salen de la iglesia. The tourists are leaving the church. We're emphasizing the place, the point of departure, what they're walking out of. Okay. See, salen del cine, salen de la iglesia, and it's de la because we have to keep those separate, right? Bien. And then you might see, here's a combination. One is a going to and one is a coming out of. Salen al colegio is emphasizing where the kids are going to wind up at the end. They're leaving for school. Salen al colegio. We're emphasizing where they're going to wind up. But if I pop in a different preposition, de, instead, I'm emphasizing what they're walking out of. Salen del metro. They're leaving the subway. Okay, so these little words, a and de and en and para, son importantes, they're important. Starting next week, we're going to start a big unit on prepositions, words that talk to you about places, you know, to, from, on top of, underneath, next to, nearby, far away, to the left, to the right, all kinds of words that talk about spatial representations, how we talk about space. Maybe you want to talk about something that is next to, oh, what building is next to a museum? What? Yeah, you know, maybe somebody gives you directions where they tell you something is in front of or something is behind another building. So these are all going to be words starting next week that we'll talk about position. And this is kind of a baby step to see that some of those prepositions are words like a, de, right? A and de, muy importantes. Okay, ¿vale?
Sí.
Bien. Vale, fantástico. Okay, we're going to start with our practice, la práctica. Vamos a practicar aquí con las preguntas. We're going to start with these questions, and we're going to do a quick run through of what they all mean. Okay, see, you only need your go. And we're emphasizing the go aspect of these, the go. Okay, we're emphasizing that. You know, there are, of course, the other conjugations that won't have the go, but we're emphasizing the go ones most. ¿Cuánto efectivo tienes? How much cash you have? En un día normal. Normalmente, ahora no. No tengo mucho efectivo. No tengo mucho efectivo. No tengo mucho efectivo en un día normal. $5, quizás. Nada más. Ok. ¿Cuántos hijos tienes? ¿A qué hora? How many kids you have? ¿A qué hora tienes mucha hambre? When? What time are you really hungry? ¿En qué mes tienes mucha sed? What month are you really, really thirsty? Here it's almost all the time. Okay. ¿En qué meses tienes mucho frío? What months are you really cold? Are you really cold? Do you really feel cold? Because remember, we use tener with a lot of idioms: to feel cold, to feel hungry, to feel hot, to feel thirsty, all of those kind of things. And next, we're going to emphasize our go verbs with oír, okay? The go form of oír, to hear. Oyes mejor, do you hear better? Oyes mejor en la computadora, do you hear better on the computer? ¿Con audífonos?
O sin audífonos.
O sin audífonos? Sin, without. ¿Con audífonos o sin audífonos? Audífonos son estos, sí, audífonos. Ok. Número 7. ¿Qué oyes típicamente en la ciudad? What do you normally hear in the city? ¿Qué oyes? So I want you to respond with an oigo. Oigo. Típicamente is just typically, usually. ¿Dónde? Where? ¿Dónde oyes la mejor música? ¿Dónde oyes la mejor música? That may be an actual physical place, or maybe something virtual, if all of your music is streaming. So you can talk about a virtual storage place and you respond to that. Traer to bring. ¿Qué traes a mi fiesta? The hostess looks at what you have in your hand. ¿Qué traes? What are you bringing? And you talk about that, saying, I'm bringing this. ¿Qué trae el mesero? What does the waiter bring? Here, I'm not asking you about yourself. This is one where we're not practicing a go. Trae will stay, trae in this one, okay? Trae will stay, trae. What does the waiter bring? ¿Qué trae el mesero para empezar? What does the waiter bring to start off dinner? And it might be different things. So you may talk about different things. And we're going to emphasize the go part of decir, digo. We'll come back to decir another day for sure, because it's an important verb. Decir, digo. ¿Qué le dices? ¿Qué les dices? Perdón. ¿Qué les dices a tus compañeros? What do you tell your friends or companions? Or in this case, office mates. ¿Qué les dices? ¿Qué les dices a tus compañeros? The a tus compañeros is identifying who we mean by les. What do you say to your workmates? Al entrar, upon coming in. Eso es todo, ¿sí? Esto. ¿Y qué dices cuando sales de la oficina? What do you say when you
Leave the office.
leave the office? Okay, bien? Okay,
Sí.
so everybody knows what those questions are about. Para que sepan, we're going to get folks in groups. This may take me just about 30, 40 seconds. And it's doing this again.
Carolyn, before we start in a
Sí, sí.
group, I wanted to ask about the when you asked about this question, about the
Sí, sí.
music there, number 8, huh? So you cannot. You say it has to have. It has to be a place, or
No, it doesn't.
virtual.
It does not have to be. It could
So
be a virtual
if it's
place.
like you listen on the radio, is that possible too?
Exacto, sí.
Okay.
Muy bien. That is exactly what I mean.
Okay.
That is precisely what I mean by that.
Okay.
Okay, muy
Gracias.
bien.
Gracias.
De nada. Okay, I'm gonna segment this off a little bit more. Ooh, sí, quizás. Tres. A ver. I had this set up to automatically put people
Cierto.
in rooms together, but for some reason, it does not want to do that for me today. Who knew? Okay, I think I've got everybody in a group. I'm going to come on in with the newer folks, okay, to help guide you through this. Rest of you, I think you should be able to kind of go fly on your own for a bit. We're going to give you a good 10 minutes, maybe just a little bit more, un poquito más, ¿sí? Para compartir, to share, para compartir ideas, bien? And you will need to hit your join button. And newbie folks, I will come in your room pronto, soon. Muy bien. Do I have everybody here? Sí. I hope so. Espero que sí. And I am not on mute. Make sure you take yourselves off of mute. Let's take a look at some of these, especially these tener, these go questions. And I'm going to actually put you guys on the spot just a little bit. I'm going to call specific people. ¿Cuánto efectivo tienes en un día normal? En un día normal. Pat.
No tengo efectivo no tengo efectivo en un día normal.
No tengo efectivo en un día normal. Does anybody have an amount they want to put in instead of just saying no tengo?
I do.
Okay, vale.
Normalmente tengo $20.
Normalmente tengo $20. Oh, remember, did you ever have one of those moms who always said, keep a $20 bill in the car, just in case, in the glove box, wherever? Yeah, always keep a 20 just in there in case. I had one of those kind of moms. Okay.
Oh, Marilyn, just a quick question.
Mhm.
Can you also say no tengo ningún efectivo y un
You could
Yeah,
say no tengo ningún efectivo. I have no cash whatsoever. Sí. No tengo ningún efectivo. Ningún means none at all. Es buena palabra. It is a great word. When you have nothing, a great big zero, ningún efectivo works great. Bien. What if you want to say, I have a little bit? And you don't want to say like a number. The word we would want would be poco. Poco. Right? Pequeño is small in size, but poco means a little bit, a small amount. Tengo poco efectivo. I have just a little bit of cash. So if you want to make it just a little bit, tengo poco efectivo. Bien? Vale. Okay. ¿Cuántos hijos tienes? Bien. Roger, ¿cómo se contesta? How would you answer? ¿Cuántos hijos tienes?
Can you hear me now?
Sí. Perfecto.
Oh, and
Perfectamente.
what
¿Cuántos hijos
was the
tienes?
question then?
¿Cuántos
It's number
hijos
two?
tienes? No, número 2, sí.
Oh. Un día normal tengo 20 dólares y 25 centavos.
Ok. Y 25 centavos. Sí. Coins. Ok. Monedas. Sí.
And what was Pat's question about the word you were using? I didn't catch that.
Pat's question was, can we use, instead of saying no tengo efectivo, I don't have cash, could you plug in, instead of the word no, could you plug in the word, with the no, no tengo ningún efectivo. There is a word, and I am going to type it, well, you can't see it in the share box. I can't type it in. Ningún means none, N-O-N-E. Ningún efectivo means I've got no money whatsoever.
But ningún, how is that? Is that two words? or what?
Ningún, no, it's all one word. N-I-N-G-U-N. Ningún. Ningún. And that is probably worthy of a shout out at the end of practice. Ningún efectivo. Ningún efectivo. Okay. Roger, I'm going to ask you to do double duty and do número 2, number 2. ¿Cuántos hijos? ¿Cuántos
Tengo
hijos?
un hijo.
Bien, bien. Yo tengo 2 hijos, una hija y un hijo. ¿Sí? Tengo 2 hijos, total, un hijo y una hija. Bien. Mary, ¿cuántos hijos tienes?
Tengo 2 hijas.
2 hijas, bien, bueno. Pat, ¿cuántos hijos tienes?
No tengo ningún hijos.
Bien, okay. And you'll say ningún hijo, ningún hijo.
Hijo.
Because if you have no kids, that can't be a plural, hijos. It has to be just ningún hijo. I don't have any kid. Okay, bien. Número 3. ¿A qué hora tienes mucha hambre? When are you really hungry? Mary?
Tengo mucha hambre a las 8 de la mañana.
A las 8 de la mañana, sí, bien. Roger, ¿a qué hora tienes hambre?
Tengo más hambre a las 7 de la mañana y a las 7 y media de la tarde.
Bien, excelente, muy bien. Bueno, Pat, ¿a qué hora tienes mucha hambre?
Tengo mucho hambre a las 5 de la tarde.
Bien, bien. Bueno, ¿en qué mes tienes mucha sed? When are you really thirsty? What month? I know, kind of silly, but gotta give people a prompt, see? Tengo mucha sed en
Tengo más sed en junio, julio y agosto.
agosto, sí. Junio, julio, agosto, normal, normal, ¿no? Bien. ¿En qué meses tienes mucho frío? Which months are you really cold? That's pretty selective for us here where we live. ¿En qué meses tienes mucho frío?
Tengo mucho frío en enero.
En enero, sí. A veces en diciembre, pero enero principalmente, sí. Febrero es fantástico, ¿no? Bien. Bueno, let's work our oigo a bit, right? Oyes mejor, do you hear better? Do you hear something better? ¿Oyes mejor con audífonos o sin audífonos? And I want you to respond with an oigo. I hear.
Oigo mejor en la computadora sin auriculares con audífonos para la perdida auditiva.
Eso, that's
that
why
was the
you asked me
question.
that one. Sí. Yo,
What if you have hearing aids? You know.
Bueno, oigo mejor con audífonos, porque a veces hay mucha gente. Sometimes there are a lot of people around me, like tiptoeing. So it's better if I've got these on. Es mejor con audífonos. Ok, vale. 7. ¿Qué oyes típicamente en la ciudad? This is a really general. What do you usually hear in a city, Pat?
Oigo aviones,
Oigo
carros, perros y un caballo muy molesta.
un caballo, even a horse. Wow.
Sí.
Ok, sí. Aviones, sí, planes, carros, sí. ¿Algo más? Something else? Mary, ¿tienes algo más?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing these right, but I'll give it a try. Oigo Sirens, Sirens,
Sí.
Tráfico,
Tráfico.
and Trabajo de Construcción.
Trabajo de, ay, sí, trabajo de construcción, sí, sí, muy, muy típico. Ok, ¿dónde oyes la mejor música? Where do you hear the best music? Yo oigo la mejor música en Spotify. Oigo la mejor música en Spotify, ¿sí?
What was the last word you said, Marilyn?
Spotify es un app. It's an app.
Oh,
Sí. Con música. Es como.
oyes la
Sí.
mejor música en conciertos.
En conciertos. Bien. En conciertos. Okay, bueno, let's move on a little bit. We want to, okay, yeah, good thing I got my timer going. Let's wrap up with a little bit of traer and a little bit of decir. ¿Qué traes a mi fiesta? What are you bringing to my party? What might you say to the hostess?
Traigo guacamole y sangría.
Traigo guacamole y sangría. Bien, otra cosa, something else. Mary.
Traigo una botella de vino.
Traigo una botella de vino. I'm bringing you a bottle of wine. Bueno, Roger.
Aquí hay una botella de vino para la fiesta. Yeah, okay. That
¿Para
was
la
easy.
fiesta? Para para la
Yeah.
fiesta.
Yeah,
For the-
and the question was, I mean, aquí hay, that is also acceptable to start with.
what-
Here,
Start,
it was aquí hay.
oh,
Here-
aquí, here there is.
there
Oh,
is, yeah,
could.
a bottle of wine. I mean,
A-
is that
aquí-
an acceptable way to say it?
Yeah, you could, but it would be much easier and much more concise to say, aquí traigo, here I'm bringing. Aquí traigo.
Oh,
Aquí traigo would be much shorter. You could say aquí hay, here there is, but much easier to say aquí traigo. Because then it's in addition emphasizing the fact that I am bringing this for you. Aquí traigo, aquí traigo. Aquí traigo, es un poquito mejor, a little bit better, okay? ¿Qué trae el mesero? What does a waiter bring?
El mesero trae a yo y mi esposo dos cócteles de mariscos.
Cócteles de mariscos. Okay, seafood cocktail. Bueno, Mary, ¿qué trae el mesero?
El mesero trae un vaso de agua y un menú.
Un
Menú.
vaso, bien, un vaso de agua, muy normal, muy normal. Bueno, Roger, tienes una idea, número 10. You have an idea for number 10?
el mesero trae una ensalada para empezar la cena.
Muy normal, muy normal. Sí, trae una ensalada, brings a salad. Muy normal, fantástico. Y dos más. We're going to have two more. Very last ones are going to be decir. And we want a digo. I say, or I tell. Sí, ¿qué les dices? What do you tell your office mates? Al entrar, upon coming in. Digo
Bueno, digo buenos días.
buenos días. Digo, estoy aquí. That's very self-centered. Estoy aquí. Bueno, estoy aquí. Buenos días. Digo, ¿cómo están todos? Digo, feliz lunes. Digo, ¿qué onda? What's up? Ooh, yeah, if it's your office mates and you do a lot with them, you're very friendly with them. ¿Qué onda? What's going on? ¿Qué onda is very slang, but what's up? What's going on? Okay, ¿y qué dices cuando sales de la oficina? What do you say when you leave the office? Roger, ¿tienes una idea?
Vamos al gimnasio.
Bueno, digo, voy al gimnasio. ¿Qué más? What else?
Adiós y tienen un buen día or buenas noches.
Adios y adios. And the way you're going to say have a good evening or have a good day, is tenga. Tenga. See, well, tengas to one person, but it's like everybody in the office actually leave tengan with an N at the end. Adiós y tengan buen día. Tengan buen día or tengan muy buenas noches, but tengan, have a good day. Buena idea. Okay, ¿algo más? ¿O no?
I don't know if this is correct. Digo adiós y espero que todo el mundo tenga una buena noche.
Excelente. Sí, es correcto. Tienes razón. You are right. Sí. Espero que, I hope that. Espero que, I hope that. Que tengan una buena noche. You have a good night. Okay. Bueno, I am going to leave the room for right now, and so that I can get into the controls and bring everybody on back. Okay.
Whoops, I was in the middle of talking and I accidentally hit the button and I
Oh.
lost.
Y aquí estás, and here you are. Está bien, that is okay.
He's gonna not want to be with me in my team anymore because I didn't do my homework.
Oh, well.
It was a struggle, but he's really advanced.
Excelente. Okay. A ver. Alrighty. Bueno, ¿hay alguna pregunta? Is there any question you have coming out of that little exercise? Something that maybe tripped you up, or some question about what to do with a particular thing?
One quick question I have, Marilyn.
Sí,
When
sí.
you talk about how much cash you have, you only have to say efectivo and not dollars or pesos or.
Oh, absolutely. You could use dólares or pesos or whatever, yeah, monetary unit you have. Absolutamente. Yes. What you use, it will vary depending on whether you're using just a general word for cash, or dinero, or whether you're, using the monetary unit. Yeah, you can mix it up really any of those ways. One thing I do want to point out, I'm going to put this in the chat box, so make sure you got the chat box turned on. We had a couple of things. There are a couple of little things that might be good to keep in mind. Somebody asked, and some of you will remember this word, some of you may not know it yet. No tengo ningún. Can I use that word ningún to say like zero? Indicates nothing at all, nothing. No tengo ningún dinero. You can use this word ningún right before dinero if you mean I haven't got anything at all. Ningún means not any at all. Yeah, it means zero without saying the word zero, cero. No tengo ningún dinero. I have no money, or I haven't got any money. Haven't got any. That's the word ningún. Ningún. And Roger, you can see how that's spelled now. Ningún is all one word. Not in the chat box. No tengo ningún dinero. Okay, so ningún. You can't just say no tengo dinero en efectivo. No tengo ningún efectivo. I have no cash. If you want to say, por ejemplo, you don't want to say a number with the word cash. You just want to say a little bit, a small amount. We can use that word poco. Tengo, and I'll put it in the chat box again. Tengo poco efectivo. Tengo poco efectivo generalmente. I have very little cash in general. Tengo poco efectivo generalmente. I have very little. So poco means a little bit, a small amount. Okay, so we might use those words ningún for nothing at all, or poco for a little bit. Bien? You're good with that? Sí? Vale, magnífico. Hay más preguntas. Any other questions you have coming out of that prompt practice? Sí o no? 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 Okay. Okay, muy bien. Very, very, very good. Muy bien, muy bien. I do want to ask, and I'm going to put up our results. I want to go back to some of these Go verbs with that little wall word wall. I'm getting used to what we call this app, word wall. That little scramble.
yes.
Yeah, remember
Yeah.
that?
That's
Kinda
good. I like
hard.
that.
Good, yeah, okay. I'm gonna be using that a lot more to give you some little things to work on. Para que sepan, so that you guys know, because this is the last session of fall, I don't want to put people who are starting at a disadvantage. So I am not going to assign homework this week because there'll be some people maybe coming in next week who have had no, background. So we won't give you homework, but we probably will do one of these together as kind of an icebreaker thing for our first lesson next week. That will be similar to this, but just with very, very general sentences. But it kind of does help you to think in terms of which words go together, right? And this is what they were supposed to look like. Tengo razón, am I right? No. And the person, the dot, the dash means somebody answering. No cometes muchos errores. No, you're making lots of mistakes, right? Cuando tengo sed, prefiero tomar agua fría. When I am thirsty, I prefer to take, with meaning drink, tomar can mean drink cold water. Mira, look. Te trae una bolsa de fruta fresca. Look, I'm bringing you a bag of fresh fruit. Okay, bien. No me gusta oír los perros que ladran mucho. I don't like to hear dogs that bark a lot. No me gusta oír. I don't like to hear dogs that bark a lot. Ladrar. Yes, to bark. Ladran. Ladran mucho, they bark a lot. See? Para la Navidad, for Christmas, para la Navidad, siempre hago muchos tamales. For Christmas, I always make lots of tamales. And just para que sepan, just so you know, tamales are very traditional Christmas thing to do in a Mexican family. Meat tamales, fruit tamales, all kinds of tamales. It is seen as a Christmas dish. Not to say you don't eat it other times of the year, but almost everybody makes tamales. If you make anything for a big group at Christmas, it's tamales in a Mexican home. So, okay. Para la Navidad siempre hago muchos tamales. Mi hijo no tiene miedo de las fantasmas. My kid is not scared of ghosts. And it is los fantasmas, even though it ends in an a. That's one of those funny verbs that are not verbs, one of those funny nouns that is actually masculine, even though it ends in MA kind of thing. Los invitados means the invited ones. That's what we call guests. Los invitados means the guests. Los invitados vienen a las 10 esta noche. The guests are coming at 10 tonight. At 10. And that would be a very normal time to start a party, by the way. Very few people start a party anytime before. Yeah. Oh, Mexico too. Really, anytime. Wow, starting a party much before. You might start a party at, between 8 and 9, but that's pretty darn early. Yes, things are just starting to warm up. Okay.
That's my bedtime.
Oh, it's good time. Yeah. El mesero me trae la cuenta. The waiter brings me the bill. La cuenta would be the bill at your table in a restaurant. La cuenta. Te digo que no. I tell you no. Te digo que no. Somebody means I'm telling you not to do something. Okay. No me digas. Sí, te digo la pura verdad. No me digas literally means don't tell me. It's a command. But sometimes we use this phrase, no me digas, as the idea of you don't say. And that's what it means in this context. You don't say, or like, you respond to somebody saying, really? Really? No me digas, no me digas. Yeah, and the dash, somebody else is answering. Sí, te digo la pura verdad. I'm telling you honest to God truth. Pura verdad, pure truth. Well, no, this is like the real deal. Yeah, la pura verdad is the real deal. Okay.
Marilyn, in number 9,
Sí.
why is the K there?
I can't give you a reason, sadly. It just has to be there. Okay. Por ejemplo, let me give you a different kind of example. Sometimes you will hear that little word que. And I have to tell you, Roger, that sadly, it often does not translate to anything. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of when que doesn't get translated to mean anything at all. Okay, obviamente. If you want to say yes, te digo que sí. I tell you yes, okay? Here's another time you might hear que, but it doesn't really have a translation. Somebody, what they mean is, of course. Of course. Claro que sí. Claro que sí. Of course. And they mean yes in like the most affirmative way possible. Claro que sí. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Claro que sí. The que doesn't mean anything. It's just, nobody would ever say claro sí. They might say just claro. Oh, claro. Which means clear. But we would say, of course. Or we would say, sure. Or we would say, yeah, right. Claro que sí. Or just claro is okay. But what if you mean, of course not? Of course not, instead of sí, we're going to add the word no. No.
Okay, no.
Yeah, of course not. Claro que no. Claro que no. ¿Tienes efectivo? Do you have cash? Claro que no. Of course not. Claro que no. ¿Quién tiene efectivo? Who has cash? Tengo mi tarjeta. I got my card. No necesito efectivo. No, hombre, no. Claro que no. Of course not. Of course not. And that's all it means. So sometimes you will hear that little word que. And que has many, many, many translations. I think we've got a good video for que. We may use that as one of our beginning things starting next week. Que is used all the time. You learn that que means what, right? Que means what. But que can also mean that or who.
Yeah, that's what I just.
El hombre que viene a la puerta, the man who is coming to the door. El hombre que viene a la puerta, the man who is coming to the door, or the man that is coming to the door. Sometimes que is used when we would use that or who to connect another idea to a sentence. Sometimes it's used in a declaration when you're indicating surprise of some. Ooh, qué sorpresa! What a surprise! Qué fantástico! How great! But they won't use the word how. It'll be que. Qué fantástico! How great! Qué estupendo! How awesome! Qué terrible! How terrible! Qué horror! Wow! What a, yeah. Qué lío! What a mess! Que is used a lot of times, and que, even though I know we tell you it means what, it may be translated in different ways or not at all. So
And Marilyn, sometimes it has an accent. Is that
sometimes it
right?
has an accent and sometimes it does not. Yes.
And so
but
what does it mean? What does it mean if it has the accent?
If it has the accent, it will still have multiple meanings. Most frequently, the way you first learn is that que with the accent mark is what? ¿Qué tienes? What do you have? ¿Qué crees? What do you think? So que usually means what, or often means what, but in an exclamation, it will not mean what. Okay, it will get different translations depending on how you're using it. In a question, asking a question, que is what?
In an exclamation, it's how though, usually.
Usually, so exclamations like, que maravilloso, Qué difícil, how hard something is, how difficult something is. Ay, qué fácil, how easy. Qué fácil, how easy. Qué grande, how big. ¿Sí? Ay, qué chiquito, qué pequeño, how little. ¿Sí? Qué importante es, how important that is. So, right, it depends on how somebody is using that word que. And in those exclamations, Roger, the que will still get an accent mark. It'll still get that little accent mark, but it won't translate as what, because we wouldn't say what big. We'd say how big, yeah? So how you're using it, the context in which you're using it, determines how que will be translated, or maybe it won't be translated at all, like claro que sí, claro que no. Te digo que sí, I tell you yes. Te digo que no, I tell you not to. So always things like that. Bien? Qué buena pregunta. Really good question. Otras preguntas. Any other questions? We'll do some of these maybe together as an opener next week. I'll create some new ones, and there'll be ones that they won't be too extremely long. They'll be short. Ninguna pregunta? No other question?
Oh, the video that we were supposed to watch where she's talking about what's in the refrigerator, I could only get a few words, but I mean, if everybody else got it, it's okay.
And that,
You don't have to go over it.
and listen, that's okay. We're gonna go, I want to use the last 5-7 minutes because this is about perfect fit in. I want to do another one of her videos, but the important thing with these videos is not that you understand every single word. The important thing is to get the gist of most of her ideas. This is and perhaps to pick up some new vocabulary. Okay.
Yeah.
So the important things with the video, and I've got one of her videos to send off with, and if we don't finish the whole thing, it is something that I will give you the link for so that you can watch the ending on your own. Ooh, momentito. I may have pulled up the wrong one. Perdón. She's got a whole series of these. I think I picked up the wrong one, so I've got to do a quick, oh, no, correcto, correct. She's going to be talking about, she's going to give you a new set of vocabulary. This is for picking up a lot of extra vocabulary, Roger. It's not important you understand every single thing, but it does hear you the context and the word order. That is normal, okay? And she's using kids' books because that is the easiest way for her to illustrate vocabulary with a picture. But I'll probably stop it at a few things to like just define a couple of words, okay? These are very, very good to use for some comprehension. So we're going to end with this. She's going to be talking a lot about stores, and you're going to notice that she, of course, is in Spain, but even in other Spanish-speaking countries not in Spain, sometimes they will have big supermarkets, but it is often the custom in many, many countries where Spanish is spoken to have smaller stores individually. Or within the supermarket, you may see departments named like this, even though they're not separate stores, okay? Indicating departments where things are sold. ¿Pueden ver? Can everybody see her here?
Yes.
¿Pueden ver? Sí, okay, vale. And I'm going to leave the titles on. She's starting off a little bit of past. That little subtitle says, La semana pasada vimos con este libro. Last week we saw. Instead of we are seeing right now, she means we saw.
Pasada vimos con este libro la cocina. Y esta semana,
This week, esta semana.
vamos a ver
Vamos a ver, we're going to see. we're going to see. So near future, super future, super near future, right now. Vamos a ver, we're going to see el mercado. We're going to see the marketplace. Vamos a ver el mercado. Now, they may not be set up as stands like this. In a lot of countries, they're actually separate little mom and pop stores that are one right next to the other. But that is the way that comes off. So we're going to talk about some stores
El
and some typical suffixes that are tagged on to tell you what is sold at each store. So be looking for those little suffixes.
mercado. El mercado. Fruteros, pescaderos, carniceros. Aquí está la frutera. Aquí está el pescadero. Y aquí está el carnicero.
Carnicero, butcher. Butcher, a guy who sells
Meat.
meat. Carne, meat. Okay, and all of the first half of these words are going to talk about either the person who sells it or the place, the little store, or if it's in a big supermarket, the department where that stuff is sold. So the first half of the word tells you what is sold in that place.
Her pronunciation
Son
is so different. Yeah?
profesiones.
Perdón?
Her pronunciation, like carnicero. She's like, it's not carnicero, but
Oh,
it's like
carnicero.
carnicero, like, you know.
Carnicero. Yeah, instead of carnicero with an S, carnicero, which is how I would say it. Because she is from Madrid, from Spain, they do a TH with CEC.
Yeah.
Carnicero. So you will hear that, but just think carnicero, just soak that in. In Spain, they do use the thing more for CECI. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yo soy estudiante. ¿Tú qué eres? ¿Cuál es tu profesión? La frutera trabaja en la frutería, vendiendo frutas y verduras.
Verduras, veggies, okay? So, and we really wouldn't have a name for her. The fruit seller, the produce lady, the produce lady. You know, we don't have a good translation for that because we don't have these little individual stores very much anymore. Those days are gone with the days of our grandparents, but it is the way sometimes stores are set up in other countries.
Las peras y manzanas son frutas y las patatas, las cebolletas, la lechuga son verduras. El
Veggies.
pescadero trabaja en la pescadería.
Oh, we would say fishmonger. How much do you use fishmonger in English? Not so much. Yeah, no, the fish guy. Yeah, okay, but pescadero could also be a fisherman, although the person who sells it isn't necessarily a fisherman. Trabaja, he works. But notice how she's going to talk about the individual people and where they work. Trabaja, 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 trabaja.
Y vende pescado.
So notice these words are the little signs above each person. Herría, herría, herría is a store where that thing is sold. Herría is a store or a shop where that thing in the first half of the word is sold. Pescado is fish, not live, but dead, to be sold as food. Fruta, sí, carne.
Y el carnicero trabaja en la carnicería y vende carne.
Ah, yeah, the butcher works in the butcher shop and sells meat. But notice that word carne is embedded into all of those different words. The word for the shop, carnicería. The word for the person who chops it up into sellable pieces, carnicero. They're all based on carne, meat.
Aquí en la frutería hay un señor mayor con gafas y pelo blanco por aquí, comprando fruta y verdura en la frutería con su carrito de la compra.
And I'm gonna end up with this and then let you watch the rest for kind of a little bit of homework. I want to watch this because this shows you how regionally one word can change. And I think this is the only one where we have a true regional word. Carrito, ito también means it's a little thing. It's a diminutive, it makes it small. Carro, en Latinoamérica se dice carro, car. Bien. En España se dice coche.
Coche.
Car. Carro,
Oh,
carro in Spain has more of the connotation. I mean, they know it can mean car, but carro will generally indicate a wagon or a
it's a shopping
big,
cart.
yeah, something that you drag along and it holds stuff. A cart.
Okay.
And carrito means it a small cart. So, you know, carro could mean a cart that like you hitch up to a car with a, you know, a hitching post. But carrito would mean a little handheld or a hand pulled cart. So this is typically the way people do go shopping in Europe, by the way, because that thing of like giving you a freebie plastic bag, them days are gone, baby. Nobody does that. You know, they're very ecologically conscious. You better bring your own bag. Wow, you go to France too, you better bring your own bag.
Yeah.
You go to Canada or in a lot of places, you better bring your own bag. It's kind of required. So people will have big bags or even these big carts, which normally in my youth, I would have associated with a grandma who lives someplace in an inner city area. Yeah, but not so much anymore. This is the eco-conscious way to get your groceries, and it's what they do. So I wanted to point out that carrito de la compra is a shopping cart. De la compra, of the purchase.
De
So
la
it's,
compra.
yeah, it's what you put your purchases in your little cart, and then you drag it on home or onto the subway to drag it on home, lo que sea. So I wanted to make sure you got carrito in with me as cart. Bien? And you can watch the rest of that later. I will give you the link for that in the email. Bien? I don't want to go too far over, because if I go too far over, I'll have people who have appointments who must go. Okay. Vale, eso es todo. That's it. So that's really the only homework you have for now.
Are we going to do the word poll again?
Yeah.
The word thingy, like unscramble word.
If you like, I can quick pull one together. See, kidding. Okay, I'll pull one together for you to play with that. Bien, vale, magnifico. I'll do that. I'll pull a word wall together, and you'll have the video. And we're going to start afresh with a lot of preposition things, talking about where things are in space, which is super useful for getting directions or locating where a certain item is, all those kind of words. And there are tons of those words, because we're going to have to break them down into manageable bits to work on, because if you work on them all at once, it will be super overwhelming. So we're going to break them down into probably about, I think, maybe 3 modules. Okay. ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Excelente. Entonces nos vemos el lunes. I'll see you guys on Monday. Y feliz Halloween. Happy Halloween if you celebrate that. We'll give a little nod to Dia de Muertos, because wow, that is next week. Dia de Muertos es una celebración muy importante. It is a really important celebration, not in Spain, not in much of Latin America, but in Mexico, Central America, for sure. So we'll talk a little bit about Dia de Muertos too. So, okay, vale, magnífico. Entonces, nos vemos, ¿no?
Adiós.
Hasta
Buena
luego.
suerte.
Muchas gracias.
Sí, que
Gracias.
tengan buena semana. Have a good week.
En buena suerte en la